So for a couple of years now, I've been living with a Ukrainian.
Alexander Kolesnyuk. З'ебал нахуй з моєї трансляції, сука ти, блядь.
And that means beside watching American, English, or God forbid, even Dutch television.
Toen ik de wasmachine aan wilde zetten. En die maakte een heel raar geluid.
We also watch some Ukrainian television from time to time.
А рівненський куклачов навчив свого кота палити, сидіти на плечі та розуміти англійську.
Is Ukrainian television actually any good, I hear you say? Well, it is, in fact, surprisingly good. Some Ukrainian TV shows will probably be pretty familiar to you. For example, they have their own version of Wife Swap, a show called Холостяк, which is just basically Ukrainian Bachelor, and even Master Chef. Though these shows seem pretty familiar on the surface, they are often a bit more out there than their Western counterparts.
Ну, решил поприкалываться, попідпалювати двері в під'їздах.
Take MasterChef, for example. Whereas in Western television, a lot of the tension and entertainment might come from seeing if your favorite candidate makes it through, or hearing the chef's sniding remarks toward a dish. The Ukrainian version of the show has all of this, but also decided to add some extra elements, making the show a lot less about cooking and more about, you know, whatever's going on here.
Я никогда такого не видела.
This is perhaps even more clear in their own original formats, like a show called Super Mama, where a bunch of mothers visit each other's homes and rate each other's motherly capacities, basically how well they take care of their children, right?
Як свого 9-річного сина виховує сама Оля.
Я його муштрую, щоб він виріс справжнім мужиком.
Except that they don't do any of that and just try sabotaging each other and try to get more points than the other women by any means necessary. This basically turns every episode into a Ukrainian Game of Thrones spin-off.
Хто? Люба? Может, надо разборонять?
Another great example is the program Revizor, which is a little bit like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, you know, which the concept is simple, right? Gordon helps a failing restaurant and asks for his help to clean up their act. He goes around showing how dirty the place is, how shitty their food tastes, how bad the service is, and along the way there is a lot of screaming, a lot of fighting, and even threats of physical violence occur. Which, you know, if you ask me, is a pretty perfect format. What does Ukraine's Revizor do to distinguish themselves from Gordon Ramsay? Well, first off, they get the most arrogant diva imaginable to take the role of Gordon Ramsay. Olha Freimut, Olechka Freimut. Is she a chef? Does she run restaurants? Is she a health inspector? No, she's just some random woman that doesn't have any qualifications in the kitchen or in the hotel business. They send her and her camera crew into random restaurants without even asking first. So these restaurants did not ask for her help. She just shows up one day, she just goes to a random restaurant, decides to enter it and harass the staff basically.
82 гривні. Я прийшла до вас з копілочкою. Ось тут гроші. Я хочу розрахуватися копійками.
They just barge in, exclaim that they are journalists and that they should be allowed entry according to the Ukrainian constitution.
А ви з якою метою хотіли?
Ми хотіли ревізію провести на правах, які вказані у Конституції України.
Which, I don't know if you're allowed to just harass restaurants according to the Ukrainian constitution. Probably not. She then goes rummaging around looking for filth, which, hey, to be fair, sometimes the restaurants are actually pretty disgusting.
А в Китаї всі такі ресторани мають?
But most of the time she just goes to these ridiculous lengths to find even the smallest spots of dirt. Then she sits down to eat the food, which she almost never likes for some reason.
Дуже багато накидали сюди листя. Як його розмішати, поняття немає.
And finally, she just expects staff to put up with all of his shit, without even so much as an angry side-eye.
Ви дуже красиві.
Спасибо.
Але трошки неохайно.
In this clip, for example, she acts like she's choking to see if the staff will save her. When they don't really do anything except bring her a glass of water, obviously they saw it as just some sort of meme, they get an earful and a lesson in giving a Heimlich maneuver.
Ой, дякую вам за допомогу, але ми дуже хотіли, аби ви знали, як діяти у екстрених ситуаціях.
So she's basically Gordon Ramsay, just without any useful skills except for the ability to have these, admittedly, very funny crash-out moments.
О, у вас дуже хороший посуд англійського бренду. З Англії привезли, але посуд часто б'ється.
Очень бьется.
От, наприклад, ось так. Так, ідемо далі.
But for me, the most entertaining and interesting Ukrainian TV program is probably a show called Katanata, translating to something like Daddy's Home. The premise of the show is simple enough. Lazy, deadbeat dads are left alone to take care of the house and their children, while their wives, who usually clean, cook and wash for them, go on a paid vacation. Each day they have to complete a certain amount of tasks that their wives usually tend to do.
Ну як тебе робота? Виповняємо?
Ти поможи хоч трохи!
Помогти чи що?
Да.
Ні.
And if they manage to do that for a week, they get a cash prize. The show usually starts with showing the toxic husband and wife dynamic at home. The dad is usually completely obsessed with some hobby, friends or work, and in the process neglects his duties and his children.
Капець, ото тільки що дороги, коротше. А так оці фастфуди, я...
Хочу, щоб ти погрався з ним.
Я хочу борщу.
Альошка закінчив дуже хорошо 8 клас.
На.
Він витягнув середній бал на 9,0.
Оце домашні ковбаски, а не ті баварські.
Ему это не интересно.
The mother, on the other hand, is generally shown as patient and kind, but increasingly sad and desperate, saying she doesn't have any time to herself.
Я уже вообще не знаю, что такое, ну, как бы, нормально отдохнуть, выспаться.
This is usually where the intervention happens. Some Ukrainian TV personality comes along and tells the mother to pack her bags for vacation.
Таня, забираю на відпочинок.
Все?
Все.
Все, я поехала, слава богу.
The dad usually laughs and says something along the lines of, "This is going to be easy. Finally, I'll have the house to myself," etc.
Нет жены, нет жены, нет жены. Это лучшая в мире награда.
Consequently, in the first couple of days, they don't take their tasks very seriously. Instead, they usually go on doing the same stuff they used to do. They laze about, chat with friends, party, or just go off on some other bizarre quest the whole day. But after that, reality usually hits hard, and they realize that if they actually want to win the cash prize, they have to actually start trying.
Он будет делать все то, что делала мама.
Окей. 6:25, підйом. Попрацювати у городі, вибрати цибулю, зібрати стилі, овочі та фрукти. Зварити інгредієнти на холодник 11:10 і 11:10, вивішати випрану постільну білизну та попрати брудні речі дітей.
Now, most of these men have never seen a washing machine, let alone used one.
Давайте в долг, я вам потом приду помою. Давайте в долг.
So they all end up messing up even simple tasks.
Ёшкин кот, я еще ничего не сделал. Только начал, даже еще не начал, достал одно яйцо. И уже начались проблемы.
I mean, they probably told them to play it up for the camera.
Я думал, что будет легче.
But I don't think their frustration is exactly acted out all the time.
Я чуть не завыл.
Besides having to vacuum, wash, cook, or attempt to cook at least.
Ну вкусно. Ну яблочко, бананчик, ну что тебе надо?
Work the land, feed livestock, and so on, they usually also have to get more involved with the lives of their children. With smaller children, this is pretty self-explanatory. They just have to start feeding them or playing with them. But with older children, this usually means they have to actually connect with their interests somehow. Some find this more difficult than others.
Может, мы поедем на аниме-фестиваль?
І що, вони всі там будуть?
Да, это косплей называется.
This is usually the low point of our hero's journey, where the father argues and fights with his children.
Леха, скажи мне, меня тут реально бесит уже. Каждую секунду ты сидишь в этом гребаном телефоне или в этой гребаной приставке.
Так начинай уделять мне времени, когда ты приезжаешь.
After that, they usually break down crying. Yes, they cry a lot in this show, by the way.
Диви.
Очень весело.
And eventually resolve their differences. Then the father suddenly realizes the error of his ways and promises to be a better husband and father.
Не крутится вокруг тебя, а ты крутишься в нем.
After which, the wives return and they get a cash prize every single time. Proving once and for all that Ukrainian reality television is a perfectly acceptable alternative for couples therapy. But why do I love this show so much exactly? Surely other shows have the same freakouts and brain rot moments that Katanata does. They do, but Katanata is truly special. First off, the editing is so over the top, it just really tickles my zoomer brain. It's like the editors got paid per sound effect.
Yeah.
It also just has this charm to it. A lot of the fathers are generally quite funny and charismatic, and the whole show has a pretty optimistic and wholesome feel to it. Because the show is generally pretty goofy, it's easy to forget that it touches on some pretty serious problems, like the expectations and standards for both men and women in Ukrainian society, and the destructive behaviors that sometimes stem from them. The difference in quality when compared to other shows becomes especially clear when you compare Katanata with its Russian ripoff, Дорогая, я забыл. And yes, it's a ripoff. Katanata is an original Ukrainian format. It's almost exactly the same show on paper, but it's just not really funny at all. It's hard to explain, so just take a look for yourself.
В 22 километрах от Смоленска в деревне Кощино живет заводчанин, спортсмен и просто красавец Сергей Соловьев и его семья. Жена домохозяйка Дарья и 5 дочерей.
Так быть или не быть? Нет. Так быть или не быть? Вот в чем вопрос. Мишка, ты мне сейчас депиляцию ног сделаешь. Сережа, 36 лет, актер.
Натуральная ткань, и смотрите, как они классно струятся. То есть они вот легкие, вы не представляете.
Даш, погладь штаны.
Я вообще-то записывала.
Что записывала?
Сторис. Вообще-то, Сереж, это точно такая же работа, как любая другая, на которую тоже нужно тратить время.
Какая работа? У тебя есть семья, вот твоя работа.
Так, показать вам всякие эмоции?
Покажи, ну.
Это злость. Это вот, мне страшно стало. Это грусть. Это радость.
Дети голодные бегают, даже ничего в доме нету. А то блогер. Чем блогами питаться будем?
Чтобы сыграть зомби, нужно убрать все человеческое. Забыть своих друзей и семью.
Сергей и Дарья познакомились, когда ей было 17 лет, а ему 29. Для Дарьи это первое отношение в жизни.
You see, in the Russian version, instead of the fathers being funny, they brought in this Andrei Pif character, who is supposed to be the show's hero and supplements the father's behaviors in a funny way.
Если с ними играть в футбол, с девчонками, это скучно. А хотел бы ты с мужиками сыграть в футбол? С папой, да?
Except that he's not really up to the task in my opinion. Instead, he's painfully unfunny and very cringy. Which is somewhat sad. I mean, Russians could definitely use some good television, especially a program about respecting women in their case.
Войска Запорозького, воїн знаменитий, вооружен бодствует, отчизну хранити.
All in all, Ukrainian television is pretty great. It has all the hallmarks of Western television, while being different enough to stand out. It often manages to mix serious and silly topics, and in my opinion, watching Ukrainian television is genuinely a great way to learn about the language, pop culture, and humor of the country. So if being able to freely explore a country as diverse and interesting as Ukraine wasn't reason enough to learn Ukrainian, you now know you can also access some of Europe's wildest television, most of it still unknown in the West.